Welcome to the gold standard, Making Millions with Malia, the place to be for conscious CEOs and light leaders who know that they have an enormous mission that requires millions to fuel it. I am your host, Jennifer Longmore, Clear Channel for Mother Malia, along with being a long-standing 8-figure CEO, investor, and board advisor who is committed to creating as many conscious millionaires as I can in this lifetime, and to debunk the broke healer paradigm that tells you it is not benevolent to make millions doing spirit-led work. We are in the midst of individual and collective ascension, and as we ascend, so must the way that we do business and money as light leaders. That is what this show is all about. So tune in now and find out why we are ranked in the top 5% of global podcasts and why savvy CEOs just like you binge our show each week and share it as a high-value resource with their communities. Now let's dive into today's Making Millions broadcast. Welcome to the Making Millions with Mother Malia podcast. I am your host, as you know, Mother Malia. And today we are going to talk about how to rise above the antics of your haters. Now, I don't really like to use the term haters, of course, but that is a word that is used in the industry, so we will go with that. I have been hearing from so many of you and also seeing a swell of this behavior online that it seems high time to address it in support of your mission. I see far too often. I have been mentoring for well over 21 years, as you know, and I have heard from far too many people over the years about how to deal with haters. Seeing so many people put their passion, their mission on hold because they are bracing for it. They're waiting for the past to repeat itself. Or they see it happening to other people and they think, oh, it's only a matter of time before it happens with me. So I better just settle. I better take the visibly invisible path. And then, of course, it can feel contracted. And anytime we contract, it contracts everything, including money, hence the reason why I'm bringing that here. So, as you know, I specialize in supporting the light worker community. I suppose we'll say, of course, I work with everyone, but I work with those who are embracing consciousness, always committed to expanding their consciousness, perhaps for other people as well. And one of the things that is quite remarkable in the light worker consciousness space is that everyone will say, oh, everything happens for a reason. Or they'll say, I know I'm supposed to be somewhere. Or they'll say, oh, I know I'm supposed to mentor with you. I just know that I know that I know. Until they get confronted, they have to look in the mirror, and then all of a sudden, not everything happens for a reason, or magically they weren't meant to be in this location, or magically their intuition led them astray and that mentor wasn't for them after all. These are the backtracking tactics people will make when they're in a victim position, when they move through the world as a victim. Now, I'm not talking about situations where we can be the victim of something. I am talking about moving through life, always looking for a villain and always looking for a reason to prove that they are a victim so that they can continue in the blame, shame, judgment game cycle. Now, interestingly, with your haters, additionally, they will usually say they want nothing to do with you. They'll likely try to convince others to not have anything to do with you as well and only share, of course, their version of events. They'll either embellish them or completely leave details out because how else are they going to look like a victim unless they skew the narrative that is shared? Now, as I mentioned, they will claim they want nothing to do with you, but they will obsess over everything you do. Now, the people that resonate with that kind of, I will say, smear campaign or character assassination or victim loop, you don't want those folks in your world anyways. Thank you, haters, for clearing them out of your world. But what you'll find is that most people would look at the haters, whether or not they tell you this, and they'll say, oh my goodness, is that person okay? Perhaps they need a mental health intervention. They seem awfully obsessed. They seem to be foaming at the mouth over this person that they claim they want nothing to do with, and yet they're obsessed with everything they do. And I share these perspectives because oftentimes old wounds will get triggered when we have haters. And the Matrix, by the way, because we know we're in a simulation, right? As do these haters in the consciousness space. They know they're in a simulation, that they create their own reality entirely, but they will forget that when they still have to move through the world as a victim. And so in creating this simulation and having our simulation reflect back to us what's going on inside, there's two parts to this. One is we have to look at the version of us that created it. What were the stories that we were trying to prove right? And then additionally, we want to look at the matrix knows us better than we know ourselves. And it will bring to you the situations or the people and or work through the situations or people to poke at those wounds within you because they know your weak spots. They know that perhaps you're afraid of being called a cult leader, or they know that you're afraid of being accused of false light, or that you're afraid of having some damage to your reputation in some capacity. They're afraid that nobody's going to like you. Whatever your situation is, the matrix will poke at that. And so your option is to just look at that and say, oh, I created this. No judgment. We don't need to make it right or wrong. I created this. Look at that matrix doing its job. Thank you, matrix. I'm now going to dissolve the version of me that called this in and then move along. We'll get into that more. The thing about haters that I have noticed over the last 21 years, well, especially since I became Mother Malia, people, rather than when I first became Mother Malia, I'll just use this as an example. When I first became Mother Malia, as you may know if you've heard my story, I felt like a newborn baby. I had all of my human memories. I knew how to get dressed and, make meals, etc. But yet I couldn't access my brain the same way. And I had had some clients with me for a really long time. And the human part of me thought that my relationship with them would have allowed them to afford me some grace in my transition, because I was different, of course, to hold me in my humanity, to be gracious about this transition. And while, of course, some people were, many people wanted to judge it because they didn't understand it or because I did something to them. I took Jennifer away from them and replaced them with Mother Malia. So instantly, Mother Malia in their mind became dark or false light or whatever they want to claim because they were still relating to me as a little child in their wounds, in their victim position. And that's a little side note. One thing you will want to remember, I know you get this, when you change, people feel that it's your responsibility to make sense to them, or that you owe them an explanation, or that you owe them staying the same, or that you owe them an apology for changing. That is entitlement. And again, only the position of a victim, not something a sovereign will view. A sovereign will have every time you change, especially since we're all about change, aren't we? That's the whole point. People will say, you've changed. Yes, I hope I have. Thank you. So, anyways, back to what I was sharing. In the last 21 plus years, what I've learned, and I know you get this as well, whether it be my own experiences or whether it be what clients have shared with me, haters that come into your world will already have a victim that they want to talk to, or a villain, I shall say, that they will want to talk to you about. They will claim that this villain is holding them back. Usually it's a spouse. Usually they've gone to other people prior to you to talk about this villain that's holding them back. And they don't want to do anything about this villain, by the way. And soon, when you can't make it all go away, you will be the villain as well. Now, if it's not their spouse, it will often be their children. I chose to be a parent, but my children are holding me back, forgetting that there are many parents out in the world that are living wonderful lives because they're doing it, well, for themselves, of course, but also for their children rather than making their children the reason why they can't have what they want in life. And then another villain will be their family. Although they're adults, they will still be upset with their mom or their dad, etc. And I really do get that some parents are really, well, I must maintain neutrality, but the 3D version of us will view them as being quite mean or nasty or whatever they are, you know? But they will triangulate with you because they want to pull you into the victim, persecutor, rescuer stance. And I have been guilty of falling into that triangle, of wanting to make it better for people. And as we all know, people will only change when they're ready to change. It doesn't matter how much trauma work you do with them, how how aware you are of neurodiversity and how to support that, how much you use your magical tools with people. At the end of the day, people will only change when they choose it. And many people choose not to change because they get more out of the victim position than out of being the sovereign that they claim to be but don't behave like one. So let's unpack this. When disempowered clients come into our world, and of course, this can apply to friends and other people, but we're talking about business and clients right now. There is a very predictable pattern that they've probably run on other mentors before you. I know in my case, more often than not, when someone has come in talking to me about the quote unquote villain in their lives, I've learned after the fact that they were doing this with many other mentors. And so the cycle is first you're the muse, then you're the mirror, and then you're the villain or the problem. So let's start with the muse. These folks will come in, usually putting you on a pedestal that you didn't ask to be on. They want to be just like you. And you'll notice, maybe even before they officially hire you, they're magically emulating your posts awfully closely, emulating your offers awfully closely, using a lot of your lingo that is clearly unique to you. Maybe they've told you that you've been on their vision board for a while because they really want you to feel like the chosen one. They may even disparage other mentors because they really, again, want to know that you're the chosen one, that they didn't get it right until they met you. They'll want to place you above, start emulating you, and often they think by hiring you that your magical fairy dust, so to speak, will just rub off on them by osmosis. They'll feel entitled to that. They'll feel entitled to getting results just because they swiped their credit card. They might come in already jealous of you and they're just doing a decent job at hiding it, but they already came in waiting to pounce on you and take you down. Yes, I know this is human nature, isn't it? So first you're the muse, and then over time, especially when you're using your magical tools on them, and they're forced to look at themselves instead of looking to other people as to why they don't have what they want, they have to look in the mirror. And if they don't want to look in the mirror, which is you, they will see themselves in you without realizing it, or see their villain in you without realizing it, and then they will project and deflect. Maybe it can look like they start missing calls with you because, of course, they can't look in the mirror. Or they magically default on payments because they've already got one foot out the door, again, because their degree of commitment in their container is reflective upon their willingness and choice to meet themselves in the mirror that you're very graciously holding up for them. They may revert back to childhood behaviors by actually speaking in a little girl or boy voice. They might be looking for perpetual reassurance, testing you to see if you as the parent is still there for them. They may try to enmesh with you already. Sorry, I shall say enmesh with you more than they already are. When they come into your world to heal, they are always facing themselves, and you are creating the field to do that. You have the awareness as a change maker. This is just one of the non-perks of the job, so to speak. So if they move through the world as a victim, eventually they can only see you as a villain. That's the only option for them if they don't shift this. And then, of course, you're aware that you're likely in a long lineup of villains before you. You're in good company, so to speak. And their degree to which they're willing to face their own shadows will determine whether they move through this phase or not. And if they're not, then it evolves into the third phase, which is shifting you from the mirror into being the problem or the villain. They're experts at that, aren't they? Through their lens of being the victim, you made their life worse, or you didn't get them results, even when you have a plethora of screenshots and voice notes and emails and videos, etc., exclaiming that you're the best mentor ever, or look at this result we got right after the call with you, etc. They will develop selective amnesia in support of them remaining the victim. And whatever gripes they're collecting, victims get even more mileage out of telling others so that they can be reinforced in their victimhood, so they can attract the pity, so that they can mobilize around a cause, which is you're the villain and let's do a witch hunt and burn you at the stake. And the irony of this, by the way, is that the very people that are engaging in witchy activity in the consciousness space, burning sage or working with crystals or working with pendulums, working with energy, etc. And of course, I say this loosely, I don't judge the witchy ways, so to speak. They will accuse you of being the very thing they are. Again, can't see the mirror. They are looking too closely. The irony of witches conducting a witch hunt after another witch when they have the witch wound is some very interesting stuff, isn't it? So, depending on how young they are in their wound, will determine how much of a tantrum essentially they have. And in that moment, you get to decide, am I going to be managing tantrums, or am I going to be the CEO and operate from the penthouse? You're not a manager. You're not a manager of optics. You're not a manager of other people's gripes. You're not a manager of projections. You're not even a manager of your own identity, because your identity is I am. You don't need to manage it. It already is. You get to shapeshift as you choose. You get to evolve out of the identities that people place upon you, whether they're true or not. Now, when the haters come at you, or you become aware of it, sometimes it comes through the back door, meaning someone else lets you know it's happening. You may be tempted to address it, to justify it, to be understood, but that is just highlighting your underlying need to be liked or understood or vindicated or whatever is driving your need to defend or respond. You don't need to respond. And especially if you view yourself as a sovereign, you will be grateful that those who don't have the capacity to meet you in their own sovereignty, meeting sovereign to sovereign, that it will create the spaciousness for the people that do recognize that, who are willing to operate from neutrality and above, who are willing to accept that we are in a simulation and that we truly, as the powerful creators that we be, create our own reality 24/7. There is nothing for you to defend. You know who you are. You know the purity of your intentions. You know your heart. You know your version of events. And you also know that haters are hurters. They are hurting and they are projecting their hurt out. You just happen to be their latest target until they move on to the next, and they will, because that is their pattern. You know that their hatred of you is actually reflective of the degree that they hate themselves. Now, is it fun to be on the receiving end of other people's vitriol? Nope. Would it be great if everyone loved us all of the time? Well, maybe. But if you've been doing this work long enough, you know this cycle of the muse, the mirror, and the problem all too well. You know that people have selective memories. As I mentioned, even where there are tons of screenshots about the incredible results they got with you, or you were the best mentor ever, or the best investment, or whatever they're saying, they forget all of that when it is time for you to be the problem or the villain. And that already is going to be inevitable with people that move through the world this way. So the invitation for you is to get clear on who you are, what you stand for, who you work with, to opt out of the pattern of being pedestaled, and then get clear on the clients you wish to work with. And of course, to look at the part of you that called this in and opt out of that too. For example, when women would come to me and say, "Oh, I don't get along with other women. I don't usually work with women mentors because I don't trust women," I would say, "Oh, well, this is going to be hard work, but I'll prove to them that not all women mentors are bad." And guess what would happen? Of course, they already told me what was going to happen. Or someone would tell me, "Oh, they have a personality disorder." And it would be well into the relationship. And of course, my knowingness would say, "Oh, it's probably time to opt out of this. We already know where this is going to lead to." And then, of course, the hero version of me would say, the rescuer would say, "Oh, but I can't give up on them. Everyone gives up on them because of their personality disorder." And then, of course, you know what happens. So I had to look at if I want to work with other sovereigns, I didn't realize I was doing this, and I'm sharing this with you for a reason. I really thought that having early bird pricing and deadlines and discounts, etc., was supporting people. But what I was doing was feeding their lack potential, their victim stance. "Oh, I can't invest in myself. You are too expensive." Nope. This is the price. And when you are in your sovereignty and when you're operating from your abundance potential, you will simply rise to the occasion because as a sovereign, you want to be met in your power. You want to be met in your potency. You want to be met in your abundance potential. You don't view yourself as a victim, and you don't want someone making offers to you to fix you or to meet you where you are not. So I would often jokingly say, "Oh, I keep attracting struggle bunnies," meaning people that are committed to struggling, even though, yes, bunnies are very cute and cuddly, and I would want to just hold them, of course. But I was attracting struggle bunnies because the structure, the pricing, the offers, the reminders, the gentle nudges of, "Hey, this thing's going on," the performing of, "Hey, let me put on this live event for you to show you that I can help you, to remind you to invest in yourself." Nope, all of that's going away now. That's the gift of having haters. That's the gift of finally getting to a point where you say, "Okay, if I only want to work with sovereigns," meaning people that take full responsibility for what they create, people that are awake to how the matrix works, awake to the fact that we're living in a simulation, how do I serve that person? That person is not moving through the world as a hater. They're able to have conversations. They're able to operate from grace. They are able to operate from consciousness and still be gentle with people's humanity. They are not looking for perspective, or sorry, they're not looking for perfection, I shall say. In their mentors, they are looking for perspective. They're hiring frequency and perspective. And so now, my invitations to work with me in my company are filtered through that. What a gift. What a gift that I can finally shapeshift the business to reflect and support who I am here to support, which are the sovereigns, supporting the New Earth leaders in really anchoring their vision and remembering who they really are, which is the infinite creative life force, and then making sure they're financially resourced, of course, to do that. So, how do we move on from our haters? Well, we don't move on. We don't stay stuck. We don't do anything because we don't give them any mind. We have awareness. We do a quick review and say, "Does this fit? How much energy am I going to give this? What do I need to shift in this simulation so that I don't recreate this?" And then keep the train moving. Rise above it. Defy gravity. Use it as a whoosh of fire to make your helium balloon, or your air balloon, I shall say, fly even higher. And at those heights, if you've ever been in an air balloon, I have, you are not, everything looks very small underneath you. You'll be completely unaware of these momentary blips in your business. And with distance, especially the distance of time, you'll only have gratitude for your haters. And sometimes we need these experiences to, usually we have set an intention that we want to manifest something. And sometimes we need a big whoosh of something to come into our world to clear house, to make room for the thing that we want. Especially, by the way, if we say we want it at the speed of light. Does it mean it's always going to happen this way? No, of course not. But what you'll know from way up in your air balloon is that your perspective, your mission, your resiliency will be 100 times more potent from these new heights. And with that degree of potency, oh my goodness, can you imagine what you are going to create? How it's going to be a contribution to the new wave of clients that come into your world, the ones who appreciate your medicine, the ones who come into your world already knowing that they're going to get results with or without you, that they're just going to get them 10 times quicker with your support. Now, I'm sure there's much more I can say about this, but for now, I genuinely want to know if this landed, if you've gone through something like this in the recent past or maybe quite some time ago. I'd love to hear how you moved through it. So feel free to message me on the socials or through email. And if you've recently gone through an experience with haters that is affecting how you're showing up in your business, perhaps you're avoiding making offers, perhaps you're feeling contracted in what you're posting, maybe you're trying to be a jar of Nutella, of course, for everyone. We hear that cute phrase. Perhaps you've decided to lower your rates because you think that's going to be the way that people will stop hating you. Perhaps you've stopped celebrating your wins publicly because you know that it will attract the jelly bellies. If you know that you've been holding yourself back in business because you're still in the thick of it, or you're expecting the past to repeat itself, I'm happy to support you with that. I do have a few different ways I can work with you, remembering that the pricing will reflect meeting you in your abundance potential and your potency, not in any victim position. But if that is appealing to you and you would like to know what I have available, please feel free to message. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this. Please feel free to share it with others that you feel will benefit. And I will see you again next time. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening. Before you go, if you would like to have a chance to have your name and business featured on the Gold Standard podcast, hop on over to where you listen to this podcast and leave a review. If you're selected, you'll have your name and business featured on our show. And in the meantime, we wish you tons of financial blessings, and we'll see you soon for the next Making Millions transmission from Mother Malia.